On July 27th of last year, I posted on Twitter that instead of a female-centric Ghostbusters remake, we should have a female-centric Roadhouse remake, even going so far as to say Ronda Rousey should play the lead role. On September 9th, the announcement was made that Ronda Rousey would indeed star in a female-centric Roadhouse reboot. This proved one thing to me. Someone in Hollywood is finally listening to me. I don't know why you chose me over anyone else, but I'm glad you did, because I've got a lot to say. But if you pay attention, I can teach Hollywood to love again. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something a lot of people have already gotten on to you for. But allow me to pile on. Remakes. I know you only started listening to me because I told you to make a remake, but you seriously need to cool it. I understand the appeal. It's peer pressure. You said, hey, that studio's making money by remaking a popular movie. We have to remake one of our popular movies. And now you're in a Cold War-style standoff where neither of you can back down for fear that the other one will have the bigger bomb. Bomb being the operative word here. But you guys really need to come up with some mutually assured destruction contract, because otherwise it's going to blow up in your faces. Let's consider for a second why you would want to remake a movie. First, because people have limited money to spend on movies, and they're going to go with something more recognizable. So the argument could be made that you're trying to make money. This is a terrible reason to remake a movie. I won't lie, there's a hit of joy the first time I see an upcoming remake of something I love. That moment of, holy crap, it's Freddy Krueger, I love that guy. But it's always followed by the inevitable realization that it won't ever be as good as the original because it was only made for money. It's art. Good art works independently of money. But as long as you treat the source material with the respect it deserves, I suppose it at least makes sense. And by respect it deserves, I of course mean why the hell would you ever make a PG-13 Robocop movie? But of course that gets into the MPAA, which is a train wreck so bad I shudder to think about telling you everything wrong with it. Fear not, MPAA. Your day is coming. But I digress. The next most likely reason you want to remake a movie is to update the story. While I feel most stories work better in the context they were written in, I could see an argument for this. For example, a Back to the Future movie where Marty's son travels to the 80s could be really interesting if it was done right. It will almost certainly not be done right. And while I'll admit the Adam Sandler Mr. Deeds is nowhere near as good as the original, let's be real, nothing will ever be as good as Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. At the very least, the remake gave us a look at a classic story through modern eyes. Similarly, you could remake a movie to improve the effects. The Fly with Jeff Goldblum is undoubtedly a better movie than its 1930s counterpart, because the effects we had in the 80s surpassed anything we could have done in the 30s. Another good reason for a remake is when it presents a good idea, but the film itself is a disappointment. Unfortunately, the only instance I'm aware of this happening is Ocean's 11, a far superior movie to its Frank Sinatra counterpart. Which is odd to me. Something like Last Action Hero is a great idea with lots of great jokes, but the movie fails for a lack of focus, among other reasons. But it's got tremendous potential, and is being ignored in favor of movies that were already good enough. Remake this, not that. Finally, we come to my female Roadhouse suggestion. An original take on an old story. Even if the Roadhouse remake ends up not being very good, which is very, very likely, at least it's a new idea. Putting women into one of the most testosterone-fueled machismo trips of all time? It's gotta be at least mildly entertaining. So to bring this back to my point about remakes blowing up in your face, let's take all these ideas and apply them to a recent example. Point Break. It fails every single one of these criteria. The original, while people have heard of it, is certainly not a household name. In fact, the handful of people with fond memories of it will immediately say, wait a minute, that's a terrible idea for a remake. It's not a bad movie, in fact it's a damn good one, so there's nothing to improve, and all the effects were done practically, so trying to update them would only make it worse. And it's nowhere near old enough to warrant an update. Hey, when your movie's about people dressing up as former presidents and there aren't even enough former presidents between the original and the remake to fill the whole entourage, it's too soon. It is also severely lacking in hilarious Roadhouse references.
Lunch at Patrick's Roadhouse.
Have I mentioned I like Roadhouse before? Feel like I've mentioned it. Do you see the problem? You're so desperately hoping even one person will go, "Hey, I know what a Point Break is," that you're not stopping to think if you should remake it. 3 years down the road, when someone says Point Break, everyone's going to assume they mean the original. You've given us nothing new to hold on to. The only time it'll ever come up is in an offhanded comment like, "Yeah, no man, the other day I was watching Point Break. The original, not that remake." That's all you're gonna be remembered for, because you've given us nothing to come back to. Writers, directors, how do you feel about this? People like Rob Zombie have said, well, they're gonna remake Halloween anyway, might as well give it to someone who likes the original. And while I appreciate that line of thinking, it can't save a project built on cashing in on something popular. So why do none of you mention this to the higher-ups? If even one person had said, "Hey, this teen-friendly Poltergeist remake is maybe, just maybe, the dumbest idea you've ever had." Like, seriously. I'm sure you could have gotten production shut down. Is it because you need exposure? Are you trying to get your name out there on something you know people will see just to boost your career? You know, if everyone said no to these remakes, we could stop Hollywood and their unhealthy habits. I don't know, though. Maybe you enjoy being known as that twat face who directed a PG-13 Poltergeist remake. But you shouldn't. That's all I have to say on the subject. But don't worry, I'll be back very soon with more things to tell you. Stick with me, though. We can teach Hollywood to love again. Until then, rock on. Hey, so that was the first episode. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. This is all kind of a learning experience. I already know what I need to do better for next episode. Just let me know in the comments what you'd like me to tell Hollywood about next. And if I inexplicably become famous off this and you're watching from the future, I apologize that the first episode looks nothing like episodes now. First episodes rarely do.